Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are LA.
It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Prime Ticket presents the Dodgers as they take on the Cincinnati Reds. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Thursday evening to you, wherever you may be. Welcome to Dodger Stadium, Game 1 of the 4-game series with Cincinnati. Going back to April of 2010, these two teams have played each other 20 times. Each team has beaten the other 10. So it's baseball's answer to push against shove. For the Dodgers, they come home riding the crest of a 6-game winning streak. They've also won 10 straight on the road. That means for the first time this year, they're above 500. Both on the road and at home, which is one big reason why they're in first place, leading Arizona by a game and a half. For Cincinnati, they are 5 games back of the Cardinals. The Cardinals have beaten them 6 out of 9. Pretty good reason. The starting pitchers, Zach Greinke on the mound for the Dodgers with a record of 8-2. He is 4-0 lifetime against Cincinnati. On the mound for the Reds, the big right-hander Matt Latos. He is 9-3. However, he is 2-6 lifetime against the Dodgers, 0-5 here at Dodger Stadium. We'll get to the ball game and a whole lot more coming up right after this.
Their talents slowly, others become heroes overnight. They possess blinding speed, incredible strength, pinpoint accuracy, and some seem to defy gravity. If they appear weak, be careful, because when they're most vulnerable, they're most dangerous. battling back when all seems lost. Is that all the men you brought? This is the greatest gift of the
Here
game.
comes Hanley. He's in there.
How they use their powers determines their fate. When these warriors set foot on a battlefield, their talents, their skills will be on display for all to see. In every game, every battle, a new chapter is written by the skills of our heroes, both human and mutant.
Well, it's been a sort of a superhero-type effort for the LA Dodgers. Lately, moments away from first pitch here at Dodger Stadium. Start of 4 Reds and the Dodgers with Steve Lyons and Patrick O'Neill. Now, there was a time after Russell Martin, who was going to be the Dodger catcher? A.J. Ellis, I don't think we're asking that question anymore, Steve. They call it the tools of ignorance. He calls it the tools of intelligence. What role do you think he's played for their success?
Well, you know, you're exactly right about that. When they handed him the job 2 years ago, they figured they were going to go out and get a veteran presence maybe halfway through the year or after 1 year. They had no idea that A.J. would develop the way he does. On Tuesday, he had his career high in hits with 4, his career high in RBIs with 5. He handles the pitching staff beautifully. Nobody does more homework on this team to study the other team than A.J. Ellis, and he's got the best throwing percentage of any catcher in baseball right now. If you run, you will get gunned down. You know that I've said for a long time that this team doesn't have a true team leader. He's the closest thing to it.
Clayton Kershaw gives us his thoughts on the man behind the mask.
Yeah, AJ's great. You know, he does a lot of homework. You know, he studies hard. He knows all the scouting reports, and that's just as a pitcher that gives you confidence to know that what he's putting down, there's a thought process behind it, and there's a lot of trust factor with that. So, not to mention, you know, physically what he does during the game. Great blocker, throws the ball well, and I can't give him too many compliments. You might see this, but you know, he's doing really well.
Yeah, sorry, we've given maybe too many ourselves for AJ.
Time's up.
That's it. Sorry, ran out of time. All right, looking forward to AJ and a pretty good battery because you got Zach Greinke on the hill, the big righty, going for the LA Dodgers versus Matt Lato. Sit back, relax. Vince Scully has first pitch and the call next on Prime Ticket.
As the Dodgers coming home off the road where they won 6 in a row, now try to stay in first place ahead of Arizona by a game and a half. They'll run up against a very good team representing the National League Central, led by an old friend of ours, Dusty Baker, who played so well for the Dodgers so many years ago. For the Reds, they are 5 games behind St. Louis. Their big problem, they haven't been able to beat the Cardinals much this year. The Cardinals have beaten the Reds 6 out of 9. But among other things, you look at Cincinnati in that very tough Central Division. They have won 58 games. The Dodgers in first place in the West have won 53. So here's the way the Reds stack up tonight on Dusty's card. Shin-Soo Choo will open up in center field. Xavier Paul will be in left. Joey Votto will be at first. And Brandon Phillips at second base. Jay Bruce in right field. Todd Frazier at third. Devin Mesoraco, the catcher. Cesar Isturiz, another old friend, pops up in a Reds uniform. He's the shortstop. And Matt Latos, the pitcher. On the mound for the Dodgers, Zach Greinke with a record of 8-2. He is 4-0 against Cincinnati. But he is certainly a winner, and if he's not, the Dodgers certainly are. He's made 15 starts, and the Dodgers have gone 12-3 in his 15 starts. He'll start off now with Shin-Soo Choo, young fellow who's from the same area, Busan, in South Korea, as Hyun-Jin Ryu. He now lives in Arizona, and the left-hand hitter takes a little high, ball one. Great combination with Choo and Joey Votto. They both get on base a lot, and they both score a lot. Choo swings, hits a little chopper to the right of the mound. Greinke just feeds it over to Gonzalez. So Choo grounds out, and we have one away here in the first inning. We'll take a look at the Dodgers with the leather now. Gonzalez and Schumacher, Ramirez and Hairston, with Crawford, Ethier, and Puig. A.J. Ellis behind the plate, Frankie on the mound. The Dodgers winning that game in Toronto last night. Got to bed, most of them, around 5 o'clock this morning. So they're spelling, among others, Mark Ellis at second base and Juan Uribe at third. So here is Xavier Paul. For years he was Xavier Paul. He played for the Dodgers, remember. Left-hand hitter, holds up on a pitch high. However, he asked the Cincinnati broadcasters, please from now on call me Xavier. So Xavier it is. We aim to please. So Paul hitting .241. He has 5 home runs, 27 runs batted in. He's from Louisiana, and the 1-0 pitch is taken under the hands, ball 2. He was a 4th round pick by the Dodgers. Xavier Paul gives you a small strike zone. He's 5'9". He had committed to go to Tulane University, and then the Dodgers talked him into signing with them. So 2-0 the count. Greinke into the windup. Zach comes back and has a high drive into right center and deep. Puig just watching this one go up into the seats, and it's a home run for Xavier Paul. For Xavier Paul, that would be his 6th home run, 28 runs batted in, and for Zach Greinke, that would be the 8th home run that he has allowed. And just like that, before the seats are warm, Cincinnati, a very good ball club, is out in front 1-0. And that will bring up another all-star in Joey Votto, as those on television watch Xavier Paul's home run swing deep into the seats in right center field. So here is Votto, the great first baseman, a solid all-star, and Joey takes a pitch a little high. 1 ball and no strikes. Joey Votto, among other things, picked up his first Gold Glove 2 years ago, all-star last year and this year. The 1-0 pitch on the way, swung on and missed 1-1. Votto was the MVP in 2010. In fact, he garnered everyone but 1 vote. He had laser eye surgery just before the 2008 season, and that really helped him. Joey tries to hold up. They're going to look. No swing, says Mike Muchlinski at third. And the count 2-1. That MVP for Joey, he had 37 home runs, 113 runs batted in, and hit .324. So he can play. So Votto waiting, and the 2-1 pitch on the way, taken very high. 3-1 the count. Votto has commanded the respect of every pitcher, including Greinke. In fact, he's been intentionally walked more than any other National League hitter, 13 times. 3-1 pitch on the way. Joey fouls it away, and the count now 3-2. So Joey Votto with Brandon Phillips, another all-star, hitting behind him. So the right side of the Cincinnati defensive alignment, with 2 all-stars at first and second. Joey was born in Toronto. The Dodgers just left that city and now lives in Ontario in Canada. 3-2 pitch. Joey slices one down the left field line. That's in there for a base hit. Crawford over to get it, and Votto will hold on with a single to left. So after Chu hit back to the box, Paul hits a home run. Votto a single to left, and the batter now is Brandon Phillips. Take another look at Votto. He got a pitch down around the knees, maybe even a little lower than that. Slider, and Votto just hit it inside out. So with a runner at first and a run in, Votto at first and Brandon Phillips. Brandon Phillips has been very tough with runners in scoring position, and especially with the bases loaded. And the first pitch is strike and the count 0-1. If you get a runner in scoring position, Phillips is about as tough a man as there is in the league, hitting .407. Brandon is from Raleigh, North Carolina, lives in Stone Mountain, Georgia, was originally signed by the Expos. If you have a runner at third and you want to pick him up on a fly ball, Brandon Phillips is the guy. He fouls one back and the count 0-2. He and the shortstop, Zach Cozart, they each have 8 scoring fly balls. Phillips also has done a number on the Dodgers here at Dodger Stadium. So I know at one stage he was hitting .390 here in this ballpark. So Brandon, right hand hitting second baseman waiting. 1 out, a run in. Strike 2 pitch on the way in the dirt. Blocked nicely by AJ. And a 1-2 count. So Greinke with his hands full gave up the home run to Paul, the single to Votto, and now Phillips, an all-star for the 3rd time in 4 games. Brandon bent at the knees and waist. 1-2 the count. Greinke hands it aside, a long look at Ellis. Now he's ready. And the 1-2 pitch on the way. Phillips holds up again. Pitch in the dirt. And they count 2-2. Votto does not do a lot of base stealing. He has stolen 3, but he's been caught 2. In fact, the Reds are not really much of a running team. Cincinnati comes in here with only 31 stolen bases. One reason Great American Ballpark is a hitter's park. Dodgers have 50 stolen bases coming into this game. So 2-2 the count to Brandon Phillips. Out of his stretch is Zanke, and his 2-2. Votto fakes and a ground ball to short. Ramirez feeding it to Schumacher, who turns it for the double play. So Greinke gets the double play, but not before Xavier Paul hits a home run. And at the end of half an inning, Reds 1, Dodgers coming up. X marks the spot. The Reds lead 1-0 on a home run by Paul. And now we go to the bottom of the first, and we'll take a look at the Dodger lineup. It shakes up this way. Carl Crawford leads off in left field. Yasiel Puig in right. Adrian Gonzalez at first. And Hanley Ramirez hits clean up at short. Andre Ethier in center field. A.J. Ellis behind the plate. Skip Schumacher playing second base. Gary Hairston at third, and Zach Greinke on the mound. On the mound for the Reds, a very good pitcher by the name of Matt Latos. He is 6'6", and he's 9-3. Actually, he started off the year 6 wins and no losses. He has fallen into a little bit of trouble. They tell me that the bullpen hurt him a little bit. He might have had a better record than 9-3. And those who have watched him pitch all season long said he deserved to be an all-star. So Matt Latos out of Alexandria, Virginia, now lives in Florida. Went to Broward Community College, and he is proud to say he was at the very first game played by the Florida Marlins back in 1993. He is a strikeout pitcher, and the Reds have won 13 of his 20 starts. Latos ready and delivers. Crawford first ball swinging, lifts a foul. That'll carry over the screen back into the crowd, and the count 0-1. So Crawford, Puig, and Gonzalez in that order. Crawford hitting .283, 5 home runs, 16 runs batted in. Crawford 1 for 3 in the pass against Latos, and the strike one pitch is foul back, and the count 0-2. So Crawford trying to get the Dodgers started. They're down 1-0 on the home run by the former Dodger, Xavier Paul. Paul hitting his 6th home run of the year into the seats in right center field. Latos rocks and turns. Big guy comes over the top. It's swung on and missed. Pitch in the dirt, and down goes Crawford. By the way, in talking about Latos coming over the top, this past winter he had an idea. He is a pitcher who extends that right hand high up over his head, and he doesn't want to drop the arm angle at all. So what he did this winter, he went into his garage and he got a tennis ball and he hung it on a string from the ceiling of the garage. And every night he'd go into the garage and he'd try and reach up and hit the tennis ball with the full extension of that right arm. Over the top fastball is high to Puig, and the count 1 ball and no strike. And you can just see a fella throwing that hard at 96. The lights have not taken effect, and he is Mr. Trouble, especially this early in the game. The 1-0 pitch on the way to Puig. Yasiel shies away from the pitch inside, all the way to the backstop, ball 2. The crowd is booing, but that's not a pitch to boo. That was a changeup, and it just got away. I mean, it slipped so high, went off the glove of Mesoraco, and so Puig backs out for the moment. But you're not going to intimidate a major league hitter very often anyway, and especially not with a change. Now the 2-0 pitch on the way, and Puig swings, doesn't get it, and the count 2-1. Puig hitting .376, 9 home runs, 22 runs batted in, 9 doubles and a triple. Started off slowly after the All-Star game, but picked up in Toronto. Swings at a fastball and fouls it off, and they count 2-2. And Latos consistently hitting 95 and 96. Matt has allowed 3 home runs in the first inning this year. He is very, very tough the first 2 times against hitters. Line drive and a leaping stab by Joey Votto. So the All-Star first baseman takes an extra base hit away from Yasiel Puig with a leaping catch of the line drive. So Puig hit it hard, and Votto is right there to go up the ladder. 2 down in the first inning. Big play by Votto. He makes a lot of them during the course of the year. And another fine first baseman, Adrian Gonzalez, checking in at the plate. Adrian hitting .301, 15 home runs. He hit a monster in dead center in Toronto. 62 runs batted in. Latos, who works quickly, comes over the top. Fastball outside corner for a strike. And the count 0-1. 1-0 in favor of Cincinnati. If Latos gets 3 runs, he's 40-10 in his career. Strike one pitch is swung on and foul back. 0-2 the count. This year, Latos is 7-1 if the Reds get him 3 runs. He was going to go to the University of Oklahoma at a high school, but then instead signed with San Diego. Here's the strike 2 pitch on the way. Adrian swings, fouls it away off to the left out of play, and the count 1-2. For Latos, he has matured. I mean, let's face it, he's gonna be 26, but when he first came up, he had a bad reputation. He was the guy who was always hollering, not only at the umpires, he'd holler at his own coaches, he'd holler at his own teammates. He was a problem, and the problem was attitude. But over the years, he's matured a bit, and he is a tremendous competitor, as you can imagine. Here's the strike 2 pitch. Adrian looks at a curveball off the plate, and the count 1-2. When asked about his earlier years, Latos said, "I can honestly and proudly say I'm completely different from how I used to be." His high school days to him were embarrassing. Here's the 1-2 pitch coming up. Gonzalez holds up, and that's a check swing. 2 balls and 2 strikes, they count. Two and two. Adrian Gonzalez. 1-0 Cincinnati. Xavier Paul hit a home run in the first inning. Reds have done well. They've won 12 of the last 20. They're 5 back of the Cardinals. Now the 2-2 pitch on the way. Adrian swings and drives it to right down the right field line, and just in the corner, foul. Though Adrian could not come any closer to hitting a home run, as the ball just did hook off at the last moment. It reminds you, in a sense, of the first home run he hit as a Dodger. He hit it right down the line. Oh, he comes back to try it again. 2 balls and 2 strikes. He knows the book on Latos, of course, being from San Diego. Latos, a fastball that's been clocked up to 97. He has a hard slider, a 2-plane curve. He's been working on a straight change. Mario Soto was a wonderful pitcher for the Reds. Worked on him to learn the change. 2-2 pitch on the way, and that swung on and fouled away again. And of course, talking about the changeup, Latos was on the same team as Trevor Hoffman in San Diego. And of course, Trevor, the closer, had an unbelievable changeup. So he's had 2 fine teachers. And once he establishes the fastball, when he's starting to throw changes for strikes, look out. 2-2 pitch is swung on, banged into left center for a base hit. Chu is over to get it. And Adrian with a 2-out single, and that'll bring up Hanley Ramirez.
Shortstop number 13, Hanley Ramirez.
To Hanley Ramirez, who has certainly been a tower of strength for the Dodgers coming up. Hitting .381, 10 home runs, 31 runs batted in. He has played 45 games. By the way, it's amazing. The Dodgers have played 100 games. Tonight, game number 101, which means only 61 left before the end of the season. Latos leans in. Waiting at the plate, Hanley Ramirez. Latos deals. First pitch is hit a roller to short. They'll get a quick force play, and that will be that. So no runs, 1 hit. The key, the leaping catch by Joe Votto to take an extra base hit away from Puig. And at the end of an inning, 1-0 Cincinnati. Xavier Paul. Couple of notes on the Dodgers on the road. 6-0 on the last road trip. You have to go back to 1955 to realize that was the last time the Dodgers had 10 straight road wins. And of course the 55 team produced the only World's Championship in Brooklyn Dodger history as they went on to beat the Yankees in the World Series. Jay Bruce, a marvelous young player, left-hand hitter, takes low, playing right field. He has all the weapons, including a great arm. Among other things about Jay Bruce, besides being an all-star, he is the only player in Major League history to do something. He swings on the 1-0 pitch and fouls it away. The only player in Major League history to hit at least 20 home runs in his rookie season and then increase that total in each of his next 4 years. He had 21, next year 22, next year 25, next year 32, and last year 34. He lifts one to left field. It's playable. Crawford goes back, now comes up a few steps and puts it away. So Jay Bruce, fly ball to left, one down. Todd Frazier coming up, the third baseman. Couple of fellas you might expect to see, and they're banged up and not able to play. Zach Cozart, the shortstop, has had a bad leg and a bad hip, so he's not in there tonight. If you wonder also about Ryan Ludwig, he's in rehab, so we won't see him. The first pitch swung on and missed by Frazier. Ryan Hannigan, the catcher, has a sore wrist, so we'll just have to wait and see whether to see him at all. Jonathan Broxton has been on the DL since the middle of June. Yeah, I think he's going to do a bullpen here while they're here, but not expected to come back. And the same with their marvelous pitcher, Johnny Cueto. Cueto is also sidelined. But Dusty Baker has his club winners of 58 in third place and only 5 back of the Cardinals. The problem, they have to figure out how to beat St. Louis. They've lost 6 out of 9 to them. 1-1 to Todd Frazier, the boy from Point Pleasant, New Jersey. Swings, hits one inside third by the diving Hairston down the line, and on his way into second base is Todd Frazier with a stand-up double. So Frazier, from the banks of the old Raritan, he went to Rutgers University, and an extra base hit down the line will bring up Devin Mesoraco. So a home run by Paul, now a double by Frazier, and with one out, Mesoraco. Mesoraco is fresh from a big series against the San Francisco Giants. Mesoraco, right-hand batter, 6'1", 220. He's from Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. And you know about Punxsutawney, the groundhog and the shadow. And he says on that particular day, Punxsutawney is suddenly full of media from all around the world to take a look at the groundhog and whether it's going to cast its shadow on that. And then the next day, Devin says it's back to being quiet old Punxsutawney. Ground ball to Ramirez. The only play is to first. That allows Frazier to move to third. So 2 down. And the batter will be another old friend, Cesar Izturis. Cesar ready to check in. He and Maceo Izturis are half brothers. Cesar had a Tommy John surgery as the result of an injury making a tag. He had the TJ surgery back in 05, and he takes low, ball 1. From Barquisimeto in Venezuela, originally signed by the Blue Jays. Interesting too what parents will do, especially fathers for sons who love baseball. The 1-0 pitch on the way is taken for a strike. Izturis says, I will never forget my first glove. My father sold the family car to buy 2 baseball gloves, one for me and one for my brother. Sold his car. Well, let's figure it out. He also got a deal, and he got a motorcycle for his father. 1-1 pitch on the way. Big overhand breaking ball misses. 2-1 the count. Matt Latos on deck. Latos, not a particularly good hitting pitcher, but he has struck out less than half the time, so that makes him dangerous. 2-1 the count to Asturias, who is 5'7", and hitting left-handed, takes very high. Ball 3. Zach Greinke has given up a run on the home run by Xavier Paul. Now a double by Frazier, who's at third with 2 out. And the 3-1 pitch on the way. Asturias hits one into shallow left center, base hit, and the run comes in. So the Dodgers challenged Asturias, and he was equal to it, and picks up a run batted in. So just like that, the Dodgers find themselves in a hole, down 2-0 here in the second inning. By the way, they're in the third inning in Arizona. The Diamondbacks 1, the Cubs 0. Wade Miley has been given the early lead for the Diamondbacks. So here's Latos. Pitcher's numbers don't mean very much, but just remember he strikes out about a third of the time. Big right-hand hitter takes a strike, and at 6'6", Matt gives you a wonderful strike zone. So it's an amazing contrast. They had the 5'7" Asturias, followed by a 6'6" Latos. 0-1. Matt swings, doesn't get it. 0-2 the count. Latos been on base enough time to score 3 runs. He has 4 runs batted in. 0-2 the count. Now the strike 2 pitch on the way, and that's in the dirt. Nice block by Ellis. 1-2. Managers absolutely hate to walk the number 8 hitter in the lineup. They are all the same. They hate it. So they pitch to Asturias with a runner at third and 2 out, and Greinke gave up. Admittedly, wasn't a line drive, but it doesn't make any difference. With a little flare that dropped into left center. Latos fooled on the pitch and strikes out, but the run is on the board. 1 run, 2 hits, 1 left, and at the end of an inning and a half, Reds 2, Dodgers 0. The Hyundai 100,000 Reasons event now through July 31st. By AT&T UVerse TV. Check availability at 1-800-PIC-ATT. And by Jack in the Box. Go big at a Jack in the Box near you with Jack's new Big Stack Burger. Beautiful evening, 70 degrees when the game started. Beautiful sunset time as well, as the sky streaked with clouds that seem to be changing color every couple of minutes. We go to the bottom of the second inning, and the Dodgers being haunted by two former Dodgers. Xavier Paul, who played with the ball club in the outfield, hit a home run in the first inning, and the shortstop, Cesar Izturis, got the base hit to drive in the second run. One thing Greinke has been doing, and therefore he's paying the price, he's fallen behind to 6 of his 8 batters with ball one. In fact, Xavier Paul hit a 2-0 pitch for the home run, and Izturis hit a 3-1 pitch for the fly ball single and the second run. So here now, Latos working on Andre Ethier, a check swing foul outside of third, and the count 0-1. Ethier has certainly been a heavy contributor, hitting .275, 7 home runs, 36 runs batted in. He was 4 for 6 yesterday, 2 doubles and a couple of runs batted in. Last 3 games against Toronto, he really was something as he takes a second strike. He was 8 for 16 against Toronto. He had a homer, 5 doubles, 5 RBIs, and 5 runs scored. Latos comes back 0-2 with that high, chin-high fastball, 1-2 the count. The interesting thing about Latos, he usually has a problem with his first 15 pitches. The opposition average is .313 against him, and then look out. From 16 to 30, they're hitting .155. He's now made 20 pitches, so he's right in the middle of that. 1-2 pitch, breaking ball inside, check swing, no swing, and the count 2-2. When Latos gets to 46 to 60, the opposition is hitting .137. So for the first 60 pitches, he's overpowering. Then he gets into trouble. 2-2 pitch on the way, check swing, that's a little high. 3-2 the count to Andre. He'll be followed by A.J. Ellis and then Skip Schumacher. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Reds. Dodgers have 1 base hit by Gonzalez. 3-2 pitch on the way, and Ethier grounds ball to the right side. Brandon Phillips picks it up and throws him out. 1 down. So don't forget, tomorrow after the game with the Reds at 7:10, you can enjoy an 80s themed Friday night fireworks show presented by Denny's. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Interesting, Ethier got deep into the count. He made Latos make 6 pitches. In the first inning, Latos made 17 pitches. Adrian Gonzalez was up there for 8 pitches and got a base hit. The other 3 batters had only a total of 9, and the fastball in for a strike. A.J., another Dodger who's been on the upswing, hitting .266, 5 home runs, 32 runs batted in. Latos into the windup, comes right over the top and misses inside. 1 ball and 1 strike. A.J. Ellis, 1 for 5 yesterday. He's hit safely in 3. He had a home run and 5 RBIs on the road trip. Hits a ground ball slowly to the left of short. Izturis is on it to take care of it. A little bit of a toe dance for Joey Votto at first base. So 2 down in the second inning, and Skip Schumacher coming up. So again, Latos is in that stretch of pitches from 16 to 30. Where the opposition is hitting .155 against him. And he's rolling along nicely now. 2 out on soft ground balls. And here is Schumacher. Schu playing second base. Into the windup, and the first pitch outside and high, ball 1. By the way, the Dodgers made a personnel move. Ted Lilly has been designated for assignment, and the Dodgers are bringing up Elian Herrera. Another ground ball to short. Easy inning for Latos. This is his time in the game, and he's been overwhelming. So down go the Dodgers on 3 simple ground balls. And at the end of 2, the Reds lead 2-0. The beginning of a 4-game series with Cincinnati. Then the Yankees will come in Tuesday and Wednesday nights, and the Dodgers then will go out on the road. The Dodgers will then come back and play Tampa Bay starting on the 9th and finish up with the New York Mets. They'll go to Chicago and St. Louis before that. So we go to the third, 2-0 in favor of the Reds, and it'll be Shin-Soo Choo to lead it off. From Busan in South Korea, that is certainly the neighborhood of Hyunjin Ryu. He takes a strike, 0-1. We were asking the Cincinnati broadcasters, do you call him Shin-Soo? And they said no, he wants to be called simply Choo. Except for Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker calls him Mr. Choo. The strike one pitch, check swing, no swing, 1 ball and 1 strike. Mr. Choo is 5'11" and 210. He'll be 31 the end of the month. Originally signed by the Mariners. He had Tommy John surgery in 2007, but he's a fine center fielder. 1-1 pitch is swung on and missed, 1-2. Against right-hand pitching, he's right up there at top. He's hitting .344 against right-hand pitching. Last year, he and Ian Kinsler of Texas were the only players in the majors with the numbers that they put up. Here's the 1-2 pitch, and that's in the dirt. He had 40 doubles, 15 home runs, 20 steals. Of course, he had a big year a couple of years ago with the Indians. 22 home runs, 90 RBIs, and hit .300. He went to a South Korea Busan High School, and they had a baseball academy he said was run like a boot camp. Here's the 2-2 pitch, swung on, ground ball to first. Adrian will do it himself. Chu said at the boot camp there were 5 a.m. wake-up calls in the morning, practices all morning, all afternoon, weight room at night. The boys lived on campus and saw their families only on Sunday. Surprised they didn't hate baseball. So 1 away, and here is Xavier Paul. Xavier homered to give him 6 for the year. 28 runs batted in. Zach Greinke being rudely treated by a couple of former Dodgers. His earned run average against Cincinnati was 2, and they have 2 runs against him in the first 2 innings tonight. Remember, Zach is undefeated in his career, 4-0, and he has held Cincinnati hitters to a batting average collectively of 172, but it hasn't helped him tonight. So the 0-1 pitch, and that's off the plate. So Paul waiting. Xavier Paul, over his career years, a lifetime batting average .259. Now the 1-1 pitch on the way, swung on and fouled back. Xavier Paul has a brother, Matt. The last we heard was an outfielder in the Dodger organization. One of the things he talked about playing with the Dodgers, he played behind players like Juan Pierre, Garrett Anderson, Manny Ramirez, Casey Blake, and he learned a great deal of how to play this game. Here's the 1-2 pitch on the way, and Paul takes low, 2-2. However, when you talk to Xavier about the fact that you want to wear a Dodger uniform, he said, no, I wanted to wear a Pirate uniform. He grew up in New Orleans, and his father idolized Roberto Clemente. And of course, in those years, Pirates had a very good ball club. Barry Bonds, Andy Van Slyke, Bobby Bonilla. Here's the 2-2 pitch on the way. Paul swings, misses, dropped by Ellis, picks it up out of the dirt and throws him out. So Paul strikes out, second strikeout for Zach Greinke, and the batter now will be Joey Votto.
First base, number 19, Joey Votto.
Joey Votto. Boy, you could spend some time talking about Joey. He has so many admirers. Hitting .321, 16 home runs, 47 runs batted in. Joey, left-hand hitter, looks at a breaking ball slider for a strike. 0-1. Joey from Canada, and it might surprise you, but he said, I never wanted to play hockey. I only wanted to play baseball, which is a little surprising north of the border. He takes inside, 1 ball and 1 strike. In fact, Joey said, I never got the hang of skating. When my girlfriend saw me on the ice, I was so awkward, she dumped me. Here's the 1-1 pitch, and that's taken on the outside corner for a strike. Zach Greinke down 2-0. We're in the 3rd inning. Reds trying to beat him for the first time. One ball and 2 strikes the count. 2-0 Cincinnati in the 3rd inning. Now the 1-2 pitch coming up. Greinke's fastball. Comebacker to the mound. Zach throws to first, and that'll do it. So the Reds go down in order. But at the end of 2.5 innings, as Greinke walks off, Cincinnati still leads 2-0. Third inning, it'll be Jerry Hairston followed by Zach Greinke and then Carl Crawford. The Dodgers enjoying the month of July. As we know, they've won 6 straight, 10 straight on the road, 23 of the last 28. And the run differential, in other words, runs scored and runs allowed, and the Dodgers lead 53. Tampa Bay and the Dodgers will see the Rays later on. They'll be in here on the 9th of August. They're right behind them at 50. And then another very good ball club, the Reds, with a plus 41. So with that out of the way, now it's time for Jerry Hairston to climb in, followed by Greinke, a very good hitting pitcher, and Carl Crawford. Greinke, by the way, had an easy 3rd inning, making only 14 pitches. So here's Hairston. Right-hand batter checks in, has a look at the first pitch and pays the price, and the count 0-1. Hairston hitting .252, 2 home runs, 13 runs batted in. Jerry waiting. Latos over the top, fastball grounded, backhanded by Votto, falls down, and in a sitting position flips the ball to Latos coming over. Joey has now made 2 fine plays, but especially the leaping stab of the line by Puig in the 1st inning. So Votto does a great job in a very quiet way backhanded the ball, went down on his back, and then while sitting just hung it, and Latos came over to make the play. One away. The big play by Joey Votto, his second in 3 innings. And the batter now, Zach Greinke. Greinke is probably as good a hitting pitcher as we have around, as Votto shows you how to play first. Greinke hitting .406 and takes low, ball 1. And it's not an accident. He can swing the bat. He has 13 base hits, 2 RBIs. He's had about almost 40 plate appearances, and he has struck out 3 times. So any way you cut it, he can play. The 1-0 pitch is a little low. The 2-0 the count to Zach Greinke with 1 out, bottom of the 3rd, and the Reds leading the Dodgers 2-0. Tomorrow night, Homer Bailey, who has 2 no-hitters in his career, against Clayton Kershaw. Big swing and a miss by Greinke. Homer Bailey is 5-9. Kershaw is 9-6 with that great earned run average of 2. 2-1 the count. Greinke waiting. Crawford out on deck. Latos delivers, and Matt misses inside, and he's behind 3-1. Game 3 of the series will pit Bronson Arroyo and Hyun-Jin Ryu. 3-1 the count. Matt Latos delivers, and it's foul to the screen. 94-mile-an-hour fastball. So 3-2 the count. The Reds and the Dodgers, each team with solid pitching. And overall this year, the Reds have shaded Don Mattingly's staff a little bit. 3-2 pitch on the way is swung on and fouled off. The overall earned run average for Cincinnati pitching, 3.40, and the Dodgers 3.47. The Cincinnati starters, they would be the best starters on paper certainly since 1973. Here's the 3-2 pitch coming up. Latos delivers, and it is swung on and missed, and down goes Greinke. 2 out. That, by the way, the second strikeout for Matt Latos. Say, you know, you can become a Dodger mini plan holder with a 10-game flex plan. The flex plan allows you to pick and choose the games you want during the remaining Dodger home schedule. Choose from bobblehead nights, rivalry matchups, or maybe your preferred day of the week. For more information, visit Dodgers.com/mini plans or call 323-DODGERS. Carl Crawford takes a strike, and the count 0-1. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Reds. No runs, 1 hit for the Dodgers. Gonzalez a single to left center. Strike 1 pitch is a high fly ball to center. Going back is Chu, just about on the track to make the catch. So down go the Dodgers. Second big play of the night by Joey Votto, and the ball hit by Jerry Hairston. And at the end of 3, 2-0, Cincinnati. Dodgers might take a look at the National League West standings because, among other things, we can tell you the Diamondbacks are leading the Cubs 2-0 behind Wade Miley. They're in the 4th inning trying to close the gap. Dodgers playing a very tough ball club. Cincinnati in an extremely tough division. And for Cincinnati, they will pose a problem for the Dodgers right through the 4-game series. In fact, going back the last couple of years, the last 9 games the Reds have played here at Dodger Stadium, Cincinnati has won 6 of the 9. So here's Brandon Phillips. High fastball, 0-1. No balls and 1 strike. Brandon hitting .264. Strike 1 pitch on the way, swung on and missed, 0-2. Remember last year, Brandon Phillips caused a stir with the St. Louis Cardinals. He was quoted as saying, "I hate the Cardinals." And then when he came up to bat against St. Louis, he tapped Yadier Molina on the shin guard with his bat. And the next thing you know, Molina took exception and both teams were out on the field. So the last couple of years have been some fireworks whenever the Reds and the Cardinals get together. And sure enough, there'll be more fireworks this year. Cardinals lead the Reds by 5. Phillips, with everything else, a marvelous fielder, has won a Gold Glove 3 of the last 4 years. Besides swinging a hot bat, hits one to left field, moving over his Crawford to backhand it. And we have one away in the 4th inning. Jay Bruce will be coming up.
Right fielder, number 32, Jay Bruce.
Jay Bruce, very talented. However, this year they started to wonder about him. First 19 games went by and he had not hit a home run. He had 1 home run through 34 games, and now way out in front of that breaking ball. But Bruce is catching up, because all of a sudden he has 20 home runs, 69 runs batted in. Jay has over 100 home runs in his young career. Johnny Bench had 100 home runs when he was 23. So did Frank Robinson. Bruce and Adam Dunn had 100 by the time they were 24. And a fly ball. Puig coming a long way and catches up to it. One of the oldest expressions in baseball, speed never has a slump. Boy, if you can run, you've got part of the game licked. And Puig can run. So Bruce, fly ball, 2 down in the 4th inning. And the batter will be Todd Frazier. So Yasiel, who will lead off in the 4th inning, makes a nice running catch. Frazier doubled inside third. Todd 1 for 1. And ball 1. Frazier had a nice thing happen to him. A touching thing. And he hits one down the right field line. Here comes Puig again. The ball is slicing back into the stand. So they'll give us a chance to tell the story. The Reds had a 30-year-old man with Down syndrome who was serving as a bat boy during a game with the Miami Marlins. And Todd Frazier was coming up to the plate. And the young man with Down syndrome said, "Come on, hit me a home run. I love you." And Todd Frazier said, "I love you too. I'll hit you one." And don't you know, he went up and hit the home run. The 1-1 pitch in there, 1-2. And the picture of Todd crossing home plate with an ear-to-ear grin, and right behind him was Teddy Kramer with that look of sheer joy on his face. Right hand held high in the air, making a fist. He was running back to the dugout directly behind Todd Frazier. What a moment. 2-2. That'll make God smile, huh? 2 balls and 2 strikes to Todd Frazier. A New Jersey boy, went to Rutgers. First round pick by the Reds. His brother Charlie was drafted by the Marlins, and his brother Jeff picked by the Mariners. Ground ball gobbled up by Hairston. So Greinke has suddenly settled down now. He's retired 7 in a row. However, as he walks off at the end of 3.5, it's still 2-0 Reds. Boys, get an award-winning Farmer's Burger topped with farm fresh veggies, cheese, bacon, and avocado. By Chase, send money to almost anyone, anywhere with your smartphone. Chase Quick Pay, so you can. And by 76, we're on the driver's side. On a beautiful evening here in Los Angeles, the Reds, thanks to former Dodgers, lead the Dodgers 2-0 in the bottom of the 4th inning. Yasiel Puig followed by Adrian Gonzalez and then Hanley Ramirez. Puig robbed of an extra base hit thanks to a leaping catch by Joey Votto, who snared the line drive. This time he hits one into center. That'll be a base hit. Puig hits the bag, makes a big turn. They throw behind him. They throw it away. That's exactly what he wanted to do, make him throw, and sure enough, Chu threw it away. An embarrassment for the center fielder, and a great play by Puig. Since the ball went all the way off the field, Puig is allowed to go all the way to third. So a big error by Chu, who had only made 2 errors coming into the game. So Puig is learning. You use the speed not only to run, but also to dare and to fake. And here's Chu going after him, only to throw it away. And it went into the seats. And so Puig allows to go to third. So the Dodgers now with a runner at third, nobody out. The error charge to Chu, and now Gonzalez trying to pick him up. Infield is back. They'll give up the run for an out. Foul ball off third, out of play. 0-1. Adrian hitting .303, 15 home runs, 62 runs batted in. Had an 8-pitch at bat in the first inning, and then singled. On 1. 1 ball and 1 strike. Yeah, two fine pitchers locked up tonight. Hanley Ramirez waiting on deck. Matt Latos and Zach Greinke. Puig down the line from third. Nobody out. Little roller that gets the run in. Backhanded by Phillips, who makes the play to third. But a big play and a round of applause for Yasiel Puig from his teammates as he goes to the dugout as well as the crowd. So the Dodgers steal a run on the error by Chu, and the batter is Hanley Ramirez. Here's the error again. Puig rounding first, and the throw way off line. Puig given third, and he scores on the ground ball. There are a lot of ways to win. Sometimes it pays off when you dare. Sometimes you're hung out to dry. And ball one. Hanley Ramirez, very aggressive at the plate. Came into the game hitting .381. Hanley hit into a force play, gave up a couple of points, batting .378 now. And he hits one up the middle. Phillips, a diving stop, but no play. So Brandon Phillips making a tremendous effort, but no way to take the hit away from Ramirez. So Andre Ethier coming up. It's 2-1 in favor of Cincinnati. Great effort, but no result except a base hit. But that's a Gold Glove second baseman, and he can go get him with the best of them. So Hanley with the infield single, held on by Votto. Andre Ethier grounded out in the second inning. Matt Latos has made 45 pitches. Now is the stretch where he really gets tough. We'll see if it holds up tonight. There goes Ramirez. The pitch is low. The throw short hop, backed up by Phillips. He is everywhere. And for Hanley, he steals second base. For Ramirez, he is now 6-for-6 in stolen bases. But I love the ball player who's always thinking. Brandon Phillips, watch him. He's not only going to back up on the overthrow, he's going to make believe the ball got away. See that? And then if Hanley was looking, he might have been trapped. So Phillips never stops thinking out there at second base. Meanwhile, Ramirez now the tying run at second base. Ethier trying to pick him up. Fouled away, 1-1. This is the stretch. He's made 47 pitches. From 46 to 60, he'll pitch his tattoos off. The opposition is hitting 137 against him during these pitches. 1-1. And a drive to right, but it's going to wind up right in the glove of Jay Bruce. Holding on at second base is Ramirez. So Ethier hits it pretty hard, but right at the right fielder. So A.J. Ellis coming up, 2 down, 2-1 Cincinnati, fourth inning in what figures to be a terrific series. From tonight right on through. Tomorrow night, Homer Bailey with 2 no-hitters, one last year, one this year, against Clayton Kershaw. Saturday, Bronson Arroyo and Hyun-Jin Ryu. Sunday, Tony Cingrani and Chris Capuano. So here's Ellis, grounded to short in the second inning. And a strike, 0-1. AJ hitting .264, trying to pick up Hanley Ramirez. Red scored a run in the first, a run in the second. Since then, Greinke has settled down to retire 7 in a row. Dodgers had just 1 hit in the first inning, although they might have had more. Puig hit a bullet, and Joey Votto leaped high in the air to take an extra base hit away from him. Then Puig made the big play on the base hit in the fourth, daring Chu and beat him. 2-1 the count. Ramirez right on the bag at second. Takes a very cautious lead. Brandon Phillips can't hold him on, and neither can Torres. He can stretch it out a little more. And that's in for a strike. 2-2 the slider. Matt Latos comes to the dance and brings a lot with him. As we told you, his fastball up around 97. Then he has a slider, curveball, and the changeup. Matt is 6'6", 235, and he's only 25 years old. He'll be 26 in December. Fastball missed. That was 93. He's been as high as 97. He originally came up to San Diego 4 years ago. So Hanley, the tying run, 2-1 Cincinnati. Bottom of the fourth inning. Ground ball to third. Up with it there is Frazier. Makes the play, and that's the inning. But the Dodgers get a run, and wouldn't you know, Yasiel Puig was very much involved as Chu threw behind him and threw it away, and the Reds now lead is 2-1. Well, make your pick and tweet hashtag Juan Uribe, hashtag AJ Ellis, or hashtag Paco Rodriguez. Keep tuning in. Stay with us. We'll get the results a little bit later on. It figures to be a tough game, and it is, and it figures to be a very tough series. As we told you, the last 20 games between these two teams, they've each won 10. And the Reds, in the last 9 games they've played here, have won 6 of the 9. So for Dusty Baker, you know, one of the more harrowing moments I ever experienced here at Dodger Stadium was back in the World Series with the Yankees in '81, when Goose Gossage hit Ron Cey in the head. The on-deck hitter that night was Dusty Baker. And I always wondered how it must feel to follow a guy who's just been apparently seriously beamed and then go up there and hit. I guess over the years you go through it all, and Dusty certainly has done that. 1 ball and no strikes to Devin Mesoraco. Foul ball from Punxsutawney. He was a first-round pick by the Reds. He had to decide whether he wanted to be a pro or take a baseball scholarship from the University of Virginia. But they gave him a lot of money, so being a first-round pick, he took it, and here he is, trying to follow in the footsteps of Johnny Bench. Tough job. Line drive, and that's into center for a base hit. So that breaks the spell after Greinke had retired 7 in a row. Mesoraco was very impressive. He's 6'1", 220, and 23 years old. And the batter now, Cesar Izturis. With a runner at third and 2 out in the second inning, they decided to pitch to the number 8 hitter instead of going after the pitcher. And Izturis ran the count 3-1 and got a base hit to drive in a run. 0-1. Well, you can't keep them all. But Cesar Izturis played very well for the Dodgers. Xavier Paul now also did well, and they've come back to drive in the 2 runs. One ball and 1 strike. Izturis against Greinke with a runner at first, nobody out in the 5th. Cesar, 33 years old. He's been a pro since 1996. He was with the Dodgers from 2002 through 2006. Best year, he hit .288. Mesoraco, Izturis, and then the pitcher Latos. One ball and 1 strike. Greinke with a perfect 4-0 career record against Cincinnati. Izturis, like so many poor kids, and you hear the story all the time, especially in South America. He would cut milk cartons in half and use them to scoop up ground balls. That's how it all began for him. And ball 2, 2-1. Cesar said, boy, back home you get a brand new glove. It's something special. Here you can just walk into I love this. You can walk into a Walmart or a Kmart and get a new glove. Yeah, sure, Cesar. I could just see you going into a Walmart to get a new glove. Runner goes, hit and run. A chopper and the only play at first. So a nice bit of hitting by Cesar Izturis to advance Mesoraco. 1 out, and the pitcher coming up.
Pitcher number 55, Matt Latos.
Matt Latos struck out in the second inning. Well, he's got a lot of them, hasn't he? Tattoos. Greinke wants to talk to Hairston, see if Latos might try to bunt. Adrian Gonzalez in on the grass. You have a catcher, even though he's still very young. He's paid the price of all the squats behind the plate. So see if they have Latos just trying to get him over to third. You get a man to third, a lot of wonderful things can happen. He's taking ball 1. Mark Berry, the coach at third. He's from Oxnard. Nice to see Mark back and healthy. He's been out quite a while. 1-1 the count. So the Dodgers now are convinced, okay, they are not going to bunt with Latos. So the corners go back. 1 ball and 1 strike. Outfield straightaway. Ethier's up a little. Certainly Puig and Crawford. 1-1 to Matt Latos. 2-1 Reds. Top of the 5th. There's the bunt, and it's going to go foul. Among other things, if you get the runner over to third, even with 2 out, a lot of things can get him home, including a wild pitch. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Matt Latos. Talking about wild pitches, Greinke has 3. Latos is also a pest with the bat. He might only have 6 hits, but 3 of the hits have come with a runner in scoring position. He has 4 runs batted in. 1 and 2. Greinke has been a strikeout pitcher, and if it's one thing that's missing tonight, Zach has not been striking out people. He has only 2. One was Latos, and the other Xavier Paul. Another thing about Greinke tonight, he is trying to get his 100th victory. Oh, that takes care of Latos the second time. 3rd strikeout for Zach. Now the batter is Shin-Sung Choo. So Mr. Choo at the plate. Sucked into throwing to first on that wide turn by Yasiel Puig. Threw it away, and the Dodgers wound up getting a gift run. Among other things about Choo, we've never seen him play before. Take a look at how close he is to the plate. He has been hit, are you ready, 21 times this year, and that's nothing new for him at all. He's 5'11", 210. Little roll to the third. Hairston has to hurry and nips him on a good play. No runs, 1 hit, a man left, and at the end of 4.5, 2-1 Cincinnati.
Fifth for the Dodgers, second baseman, number 55, Skip Schumacher.
Two to one in favor of Cincinnati as we go to the bottom of the 5th inning. And for the Dodgers, it'll be the bottom of the lineup. That means Skip Schumacher, followed by Jerry Hairston, and then Zach Greinke. Dodgers and Reds, game 1 of the 4-game series. 2 runs, 5 hits, 1 error for the Reds. 1 run, 3 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. Schumacher tapped to short in the 2nd inning. Latos has made 54 pitches. And remember, in keeping tabs on him, after 60 pitches, he runs into some trouble. From 61 to 75, the opposition hitting .338 against him. So we'll see. 0-2. Fastball just off the plate at 95. So to repeat, this is the stretch right now where the opposition is hitting 137 against him. Little ground ball. Render to Caesar, the things that are Caesar's, and he makes the play. 1 away. You know, this week Fox Saturday Baseball returns as the American League West leading Athletics take on the Angels. Fox Saturday Baseball begins this week at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. Jerry Hairston coming up, robbed of a hit. A backhand effort by Joey Votto, who then went down on his back. And what made it rather intriguing, somehow he was able to backhand the ball in the air and hang it perfectly for Latos coming over. 0-1. All right, he's 2 pitches away. Interesting to see if the numbers hold up. 1 out, 5th inning, 2-1, Cincinnati. 0-2. Remember about Latos, he started the year 6 wins and no losses. Came into this game 9-3. And those who follow the Reds every day say the bullpen let a couple get away. He really was an all-star pitcher this year. And at his young age, he figures to just get better and better and tougher and tougher. 0-2. And that's going to be hit into left center. And it's going to land in front of the sliding Xavier Paul. So it's a base hit for Hairston. And it'll bring up Greinke. Nice effort by Xavier. It's also a dangerous play to leave your feet. I mean, if he doesn't block that ball, the Dodgers have the tying run in scoring position. But at least he slowed it down and kept it within reach. All right, Hairston with Greinke at the plate. Reds think Greinke might bunt. They bring Frazier well in on the grass at third. Greinke has 2 sacrifices. Got it down. Good bunt. Votto has to make the play to Phillips. So the Dodgers playing little ball here. They have Greinke sacrifice that moves the tying run to second base. And Mattingly leaves it up to Carl Crawford, who has struck out and flied to center. Crawford hasn't faced Latos much. He was 1 for 3 against him. So Greinke back in the dugout, moves his man along, gets 5 from, among others, Mark Ellis. And now here's Crawford. Struck out, flied to center. Hairston with his tourist bird dogging him a little bit, trying to cut down his lead. He doesn't have to worry about Phillips with a left-hand hitter up. off speed. That's the change. Ball one. That came up there at 79. So he's been as high as 97 and as low as 76, and he is now in that stretch from 61 to 75. The opposition has hit 338 against him. So we'll see if that holds up. 1 ball and no strikes. Line drive caught by Latos, and he just flips the ball over, but he doesn't have to. That would have been the 4th out. So down go the Dodgers. They leave a runner, and at the end of 5, 2-1 Cincinnati. Oh, 1988, of course, people remember people like Mickey Hatcher, Oral Hershiser, and, of course, Kirk Gibson. There was a 12-game winner in 1988 by Tim Belcher, who indeed made a lot of contribution. Well, what's really interesting, it was the next year that really took your breath away. Belcher in 1989 not only won 15 games, on this day in 89, he shut out the Astros 6-0. But what is really dazzling, you realize Belcher had 15 victories and 8 of them, that's right, 8 of them were shutouts. Just another name in passing over the years, but what a contribution he made. Tim Belcher with the Dodgers. Let's go back to this one. Two to 1 in favor of the Reds. They picked up runs each of the first 2 innings. Home run by former Dodger Xavier Paul, and a 3-1 2-out fly ball single by Cesar Izturis that cashed in Todd Frazier. Dodger run, Puig a base hit. He got Chu, the center fielder, to try to throw behind him. Instead, he threw it away, and a ground ball picked him up from third. Off speed, ball 1 to Xavier Paul, homered and struck out. Paul from Slidell, Louisiana, lives in New Orleans. That's a strike. He's 5'9", but well built. He's about 200 pounds. He was with the Dodgers in 2009, 10, and 11 before moving on to the Pirates. Tried to stay back and time it, couldn't do it. 1-2. One and two the count to Xavier Paul. 2-2. Greinke trying to win his 9th game of the year and the 100th in his career. 2-2. Ball 3. Game 1 of a big 4-game series with the Reds. Last we checked, Arizona was winning, playing the Cubs. Looks like 3-0 in favor of Arizona. 3-2. And ball 4. So that is a bad man to walk, because then you get Votto, Phillips, and Bruce for Greinke. The first walk that he has issued tonight. Joey Votto singled, hit back to the box. Has made 2 good plays defensively. Votto very, very quiet. Doesn't say very much and doesn't say that to very many people. They were talking about the middle of a game last summer, and Votto walked over to his teammate, the third baseman Todd Frazier, and apologized. It had nothing to do with anything that had happened on the field. In fact, Votto at the time was on the DL with a left knee injury. Fouled away. Frazier wasn't in the lineup that day. Votto took advantage of the opportunity to simply tell Frazier he was sorry for not investing time to get to know his teammate. Joey said, "I take the blame for it. I don't know you that well, and I want to get to know you better." Wow, Frazier was really surprised. But that's the kind of person Votto is. 1 ball and 1 strike. Off speed, 2-1. Arizona leading the Cubs 3-0 in the 7th. Miley is working on a 3-hit shutout. Aaron Hill, that wonderful second baseman, has a home run and an RBI double. Aaron Hill is the fella who hit for the cycle twice in 1 year, within a couple of weeks. Little roller, foul. 2-2. Votto, who absolutely loves to hit. In fact, someone once said, I'm gonna talk to Joey about hitting, and Brandon Phillips said, I hope you have a lot of time. Remind you of the great Ted Williams, who would just stop on the street corner and talk forever about hitting. 2-2. Little tapper speared by Greinke down to Ramirez. They double him up. Nice play by Zach Greinke to turn that into a double play. 1-6-3. Big play there, accurate throw, and then Hanley in the dirt. Nice pick by Adrian. So 2 down here in the 6th inning. Still 2-1 in favor of the Reds. And the batter, Brandon Phillips. Oh, and 1 they count. Phillips in 2007 joined the 30-30 club with Cincinnati. 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases. Only 3 of the 32 members of that 30-30 are second basemen. Alfonso Soriano Ian Kinsler and Brandon. 0-2. Look out. They've got him, and Brandon goes to first. Greinke furious at himself. That would be the 5th hit batter for Brandon Phillips. Just to check, it is the 7th time that he's been hit by a pitch. So with 2 out, Phillips aboard, and more trouble on the horizon. Jay Bruce. And a strike. 0-1. Jay Bruce got the thrill of a lifetime last year. A walk-off home run to get the Reds into the postseason. That doesn't happen very often. Elite company. Going back to Bobby Thompson, Henry Aaron, Alfonso Soriano, and Steve Finley when he hit the grand slam here for the Dodgers. 1-1 to Jay. 6'3", 225, only 25 years old, and he's been with the Reds since 2008. So he was up there when he was 19. 1 ball and 1 strike. 1-2. Jay Bruce, I guess you'd call, is a blue-collar home. His dad, a master plumber. His mom taught elementary school. From Beaumont, Texas, and still lives there. He looks every bit a first-round pick. 6'3", 225. 1-2. His dad gave him a great bit of advice. He was about maybe 13. And his father said, don't ever talk about yourself. When you start bragging about what you've done, you're no good as a person or a teammate. Little ground foul. Jay Bruce had a scholarship to Tulane, but instead signed with the Reds. First round pick, you get a very big sizable bonus. So he took it. 1-2 the count. And gets away from Ellis to the backstop. Phillips around second and will hold on. So AJ having trouble with that pitch, tried to block it, and it got away. It'll be a wild pitch. In the dirt. It didn't come up for him. Went underneath his left leg. He'll go down. Watch, the glove will come up and the ball goes right underneath and then caroms off. Tough to find at first. All the while Brandon Phillips holding at second. So a wild pitch. That would be the 4th wild pitch this year for Greinke. 2-1 Reds. They have a runner at scoring position with 2 out. 2-2 to Jay Bruce with the right hand hitting Frazier on deck. Off speed, high fly ball to the gap and left center, and it's going to be gone. It looked like a high changeup, and Bruce just stroked it into the seats. And just like that, the Reds have taken a 4-1 lead. A high changeup, that is about the bottom of the barrel for a pitcher. Not that it's a changeup, but a high changeup. That's disastrous. It's up there, and it's out of here. It was 70 miles an hour. So for Greinke, he gives up the home run the other way for Zach in allowing the home run. That would be the 9th and 2 in this game. So Bruce, with a big grin, goes back into the dugout. He has 21 home runs, so he is certainly accustomed to it. And the Reds trying to make it 7 out of 10 in the last 10 games they played here at Dodger Stadium. So any way you cut it, Dusty's club is trouble. And of course, old Dusty is still chewing on a toothpick. Boy, how we used to beg him to give that up. You're going to one day swallow it. Never changed. Remember his son during the World Series, youngster running out towards home plate, and they had to get him out of there as a run scored. Dusty's boy is now 15. Big boy. 1-2 to Frazier, has double grounded out. 2-2. Dodgers began the game a game and a half ahead of Arizona. Arizona leads 3-1 in the 7th inning against the Cubs, and the Dodgers really have their hands full with Cincinnati. Reds lead 4-1. Dodgers, with all of their daring do of late, have won 53 games. The Reds, in a tougher division, have won 58. 3-2. Fastball, waiting for it, plenty of time, and Schumacher takes care of it. However, a hit batter and a home run on a high change, and it's 4-1 Cincinnati. Yankees. The storied rival returns to Dodger Stadium Tuesday and Wednesday, and you can be here as individual tickets are now on sale. So buy your tickets today at Dodgers.com/tickets. The Yankees are coming. Meanwhile, the Dodgers have enough to do with the Reds. Matt Latos has limited them to 1 run, 4 hits. The run was when Puig singled. Center fielder Chu tried to throw behind him as he rounded first. Instead, Chu threw it away. Puig went all the way to third, came home on a ground ball. Well, that's not much of an attack. It's an indication of just how well Matt Latos has pitched. And ball 1. Show you how a pitcher's future can change in a hurry. Greinke had 2 out, nobody on base, and a no ball 2-strike count to Brandon Phillips. and he hit him with the pitch. And then, boom, home run by Bruce. Meanwhile, Puig comes up with his second hit. If it hadn't been for Votto, Yasiel would have 3 for 3 tonight. He's 2 for 3 right now.
First baseman number 23, Adrian Gonzalez.
So Puig went after a little breaking ball, a slider, pulled it into left field. And now Gonzalez, Ramirez, and Ethier coming up. Adrian had an 8-pitch at bat in the first inning and hit the 8th pitch for a base hit. Last time up, grounded out, picked up an RBI as Puig scored from third. 4-1 Reds. Ball one. Now remember those numbers. This is exactly where Latos in the past has had most troubles. From 61 to 75 pitches, he's right there at 67. Strike, picked up the corner. 1-1. Hanley Ramirez waiting on deck. Four runs, 6 hits, 1 error for the Reds, 1 run, 5 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. And ball 2, 2-1. And ground ball to Phillips. Quick flip to short, and they double up Adrian. The 4-6-3 double play, 2 out. Hanley Ramirez coming up. Here's an update, and the score you're really interested in. Arizona leading the Cubs 3-1, bottom of the 7th inning, behind Wade Miley. San Diego outlasting Milwaukee 10-10. Carlos Quinton had a big night, including a home run. And Miami knocked off Colorado 5-3. Meanwhile, it's 4-1 Cincinnati, 2 out, bases empty. Way out in front of that. 0-1. I guess you go in there to bat up against a guy at 6'6", standing on a 10-inch mound. You've seen him throw 97. I guess you expect everything to come at 97, especially because he extends that right arm and goes high in the air. That's popped in the air, foul, back into the crowd. Sellout crowd tonight. Hope you'll be out here. A couple of big ball games coming up. I mean, tomorrow night, you have Clayton Kershaw, and he'll go up against Homer Bailey. Homer has 2 no-hitters. A.J. Ellis talking to Clayton. They're good buddies. Then Saturday night, Bronson Arroyo, Hyun-Jin Ryu. And finally, Sunday, Chris Capuano will be going, probably against Tony Cingrani. There's cleanly shaven Chris Capuano. Saturday's game, by the way, involving Hyun-Jin Ryu, will be shown in Korea. Well, Hanley chasing one well off the plate, strikes out. So I would say that Latos has negotiated that troublesome spot in the pitching area, and he walks off with a strong stride and a 4-1 lead. A good pitching matchup tonight, but it's no surprise because when you see the Reds and the Dodgers, you know you're going to be talking about a low starters earned run average. Pirates are the big surprise, followed by the Cardinals, and then the Reds and the Dodgers. And tonight, Matt Latos is certainly leading Greinke 4-1. Latos, by the way, in looking at his career, is a lot better pitcher in the daytime for whatever reason than he is at night. High fly, I mean high. Crawford is under it. So one pitch, Devin Mesoraco, the catcher, a fly ball, one down, and Cesar Izturis coming up.
Number 3, Cesar Izturis.
Izturis singled and grounded out, but the ground out was a good bit of hitting. They ran Mesoraco on a hit and run play. He didn't get a good ball to swing at, but he was able to tap it to third, advance Mesoraco, and he was thrown out. But it was a good moment for him. Big breaking ball strike. J.P. Howell, the left-hander, gets up in the Dodger bullpen. Big surprise about Greinke tonight, and maybe it was an indication he was going to struggle. He's only struck out 3, and 2 of them the pitcher. That is not like Greinke. 2 down.
Pitcher, Matt Latos.
Greinke, over the last 5 years, one of only 4 starting pitchers to strike out over 23% of his batters, and walking only 7%. He's right behind Justin Verlander in percentage of batters that he strikes out, but not tonight. Not at all tonight. Oh, and 1. 0-2. Fastball had a little run to it. He has struck out Latos twice. What is it they used to say? Striking out the pitcher is like kissing your sister. Well, he's got him again, but it's not very appetizing. He has struck out Latos 3 times. They give him 4 strikeouts. However, he walks off losing 4-1. is brought to you by AT&T. Rethink possible. By your Southern California Toyota dealers. And by CarMax. Start the search for your next car at CarMax. The Reds have been leading all the way. They scored a run in the first inning, another in the second inning, and then added two more in the sixth. So the Dodgers struggling, trying to do something against Matt Latos, and Andre Ethier will try to set the example. Ethier has had a marvelous month of July, a .361 batting average compared to a .252 batting average, averaging out April, May, and June. And 14 runs scored, 24 RBIs in 3 months, and 12 in the month of July, with still a few days left. So Andre 0 for 2, grounded out, lined out to right field in the fourth inning. Could have picked up an RBI, but it found its way right into Jay Bruce's glove. And a fly ball to left field, angling over his ball. So Ethier, one away.
Catcher number 17, A.J. Ellis.
Matt Latos doing a terrific job. He's had 10 pitches in each of the last 2 innings. He had 2 innings, second and third, 11 pitches in each inning. So he's just been breezing. In the first inning, he made 17 pitches, but he made 8 pitches to Adrian Gonzalez. So he's really not been threatened, except when it was 2-1, thanks to Puig drawing Chu into making that wild throw. And Latos now is just about out of that bad zone as far as his pitch count is concerned. He has now made 76 pitches. From now till 90, the opposition is hitting .270. Well, we'll see. 0-2. And he's still throwing hard, 95. When the Reds come up in the 8th inning, they'll have Chu, Paul, and Votto. And of course, Votto and Chu, they have a shot of being the first pair of National League teammates to have an on-base percentage above .420. You have to go back to Todd Helton and Larry Walker. So it's a good combination. They're a very good team. One of the problems for the Reds, injuries in the bullpen. Sean Marshall, who figures to be the mainstay, has been out with a bad shoulder. Jonathan Broxton, who was going to pick up for him, he's been out since the 15th of June. Manny Parra has done a good job, and of course eventually they get the ball to Aroldis Chapman, and then they're okay. Chopper to Frazier, sets, makes his play. 2 down. Remember the Twitter question, unsung heroes? Well, you can see A.J. Ellis winning easily at 67%, Juan Uribe, and then Paco Rodriguez. But let's face it, all 3 have done some wonderful work so far. Of course, those are the operative words, aren't they, so far? It's nice to be in first place, but it's still only July. 61 games to go. I was there, so I will never forget the 1951 Dodgers. They were 13.5 games in front in August, and they lost. Not too many years later, I remember Gene Mauch and the Philadelphia Phillies. They led by 6 games with 12 left on the schedule, and they lost. So sure, it's nice. You're a game and a half in front in July, but hold everything. 1-2. We were talking about Latos earlier. At night in his career, he's only 3 games above 500. In the daytime, He is 22-11. One thing for sure that will endear him to the fans in Cincinnati. Against the Central, he is a big winner. 20-11. Ball hit the bag. Otherwise, his tourist might make the play. The Schumacher, a 2-out single, will bring up Jerry Hairston. His tourist thought he surely had a play. He's overshifted anyway, right there, and bingo, it hits the bag. That is the 6th hit for the Dodgers, but only 1 run to show for it. And the batter, Hairston, robbed of a hit on a nice play by Votto, and single to left. Fastball, strike. Nick Punto comes out on deck. He would bat for Greinke. Just looking up, Latos has given up 11 home runs. But remember, he pitches a lot in Great American Ballpark, and that's a home run ballpark. 1-1. I'd like to see a game involving Latos and Josh Colmenter, who pitches just like him, like a pitching machine. Right arm fully extended, completely over the top. And then you think about the tennis ball hanging from the roof of his garage. By getting that arm plane, he really gets his back into it. Of course, the key for any pitcher starts with the legs pushing off the rubber. 2-1. And ball 3. Latos has a passion for art and drawing. Oh, he's known around the league for tattoos. He has something like 20 or more. Three and 1. 2 out. And ball 4. So you could say right now a possible tying run coming to the plate. Although when you look at Nick Punto, you don't really think about a home run. Punto hitting .242. He is the proud possessor of 1 home run. He'll be hitting left-handed, and they'll have a little meeting. Brian Price going out to talk about how the Reds want to pitch him. Punto, as a pinch hitter, is 3 for 12. That would give him a .250 batting average. 2 runs batted in. Batting right-handed, he's hitting over 300. Batting left-handed, he's hitting .213, and that's the way he's going to hit. His 1 home run came as a left-handed batter. Meanwhile, Zach Greinke coming out of the game, 7 innings, 4 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, on the edge, and unable to get his 100th career win unless the Dodgers come up with a miracle here in the 7th inning to give him the lead. Stuck on 99. Punto, meanwhile, has never faced Matt Latos. Manny Parra and J.J. Hoover. Parra, the left-hander, has done a great job for the Reds in the bullpen. On deck, Carl Crawford. Schumacher at second and Hairston at first. And a strike. For the Dodgers, this would be the only time tonight they've had 2 men on base in the same inning. Of course, in Brooklyn, they would say, what base? When they were wild running the bases. 0-1. And another strike. So Leto's going right after Punto. 2 quick strikes, 2 93, 94 mile-an-hour fastballs. Oh, 2. Another fastball, 3 of them in a row, and Punto is done. Pretty tough to come off the bench and look at 3 at 94, and it's 4-1 Cincinnati. Jay Bruce got that off-speed 70-mile-an-hour changeup, and that's been the big hit. It changed a 2-1 game to a 4-1 game. Greinke, not really himself, allowing 4 earned runs in 7 innings, struck out only 4. Previous starts, he was brilliant with an earned run average less than a half a run, but not tonight. The Reds, who have won 6 of 9 in the games here at Dodger Stadium, trying to make it 7 out of 10. Trying to change all of that is J.P. Howell. He worked a third of an inning Tuesday in Toronto. Doesn't work too long very often. 2 2/3 innings. But here in the 8th inning, he'll get 3 left-hand batters, Chu, Paul, and Votto. Chu is 0 for 3. He's the one who gets hit all the time. Ball 1. One ball and no strikes. Chu, when he was in Korea, was a pitcher. In fact, they said he threw 95 miles an hour and was named the best pitcher 2 years in a row at the Korean President's Cup. 2-0. Foul ball. Among other things, when they talk about Chu, they shake their heads and say, what a workhorse. His daily routine includes hundreds of fingertip push-ups to strengthen his wrist and hands, dozens of swings off a tee, and then he has a bowl of piping hot noodle soup. He takes that after the pregame batting practice. I don't think he takes a bat with him to the hotel, but at home they say he will take 150 swings with the bat before he goes to sleep. We were talking earlier about he went to that highly regimented academy for baseball. A shot up the middle and a base hit. like happens, and remember with Chan Ho Park, he had to win a certain game in order to be exempt from military service. Chu helped South Korea defeat Taiwan, and that made him exempt.
Your attention, please, for the Reds.
Chris Heisey is now coming up to hit. So Heisey hitting for Xavier Paul. Heisey visiting with AJ before getting in. He's from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, lives in Mechanicsburg, went to Messiah College. And a strike. So Chu with a base hit at first. And here is Chris Heisey, picked by the Reds back in 2006. Finally got up in 2010, and he's been with the Reds basically ever since. Oh, 0-1. Carlos Marmol begins to throw now in the Dodger bullpen. So for Mattingly, he has seen the Dodgers shut down by Matt Latos. Only 6 hits and 1 run. 0-1. Heisey never thought he'd be a big leaguer. That was farthest from his dreams. He figured, I'll go to Messiah College. That's just outside of Harrisburg. I'll get an elementary school teaching job after I get my degree, like kids, and go about my life. And then during the summer, a friend of his on the team in college invited him to come to some open tryout camps. He went to 6 or 7 and nothing happened. The last stop was the Reds tryout camp. Darned if he didn't hook on there. And here he is. Chris Heisey. Heisey. He'll be 29 in December. Oh, and 2. Check swing. They're going to look. Swing. Yep. So Heisey hesitates, just stared at first base umpire Alfonso Marquez, and then walks away. So 1 out, and Joey Votto coming up. Joey Votto, single to left, hit back to the box, grounded into a double play. The All-Star first baseman checking in. And a strike, even though Votto leaned away as if the pitch was inside. You know, when you look at Joey Votto and you want to look at his home runs, RBIs, batting average, on base slugging, etc. His first 5 years, truly remarkable. There are only 8 other hitters that could match his numbers. First 5 years in the big league. Only 8. And who are they? Todd Helton, Albert Pujols, Frank Thomas, Vladimir Guerrero, Chuck Klein, Johnny Mize, Ted Williams, and Joe DiMaggio. Oh, and 1. And there goes the runner, and it's a base hit to center. The Dodgers fooled the runner completely. They've got him hung up, and he's going to be out at second base. Shin-Soo Choo completely confused, and they ought to give the Dodgers Hanley Ramirez an Oscar, or at least an Emmy. What a job he did on Chu. Chu had no idea. He thought the play was at the bag. Instead, it's a base hit. So he slides in. Oops, no, I better go back. No, hold on, I'll go back. No, wait a minute. You're out. So Chu, as Votto gets a base hit, and Joey is hollering, go, go. Can't help his buddy, and Chu is nailed. And for Dusty Baker, he'll file that away and talk to Mr. Chu. How many times you've seen it, though, where the base runner is so busy running, has no idea where the ball is. And there goes Votto on an off-speed pitch, and he's safe. So Joey Votto steals his 4th base. A.J. Ellis talking to the plate umpire, Scott Barry. So now let's see, what are they going to do with Phillips? They're going to put him on. So Votto steals second. Not a good pitch. It was an off-speed pitch. Wow, it looked like he was out, wasn't it? Not to the second base umpire, who's the crew chief, Ted Barrett. So Phillips gets the walk. And now Jay Bruce coming up.
Coming to the plate, right fielder, Jay Bruce.
Jay Bruce got an off-speed pitch, the one pitch I'm sure Zach Greinke would like back. On TV, that looks like a hard-throwing breaking ball. It was a big, slow hanger. And Bruce just went the other way with it. Hit his 21st home run of the year. Flied to left, flied to right, and then hit the home run. 2 on, 2 out, and ball 1. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 8th inning, Crawford, Puig, and Gonzalez. Votto at second, Phillips at first. One ball and no strikes. Breaking ball in there. 1-1. Howell and Bruce faced each other only once. Bruce 0 for 1. Struck out that time. 1 ball, 1 strike. Final score, Arizona defeated the Cubs 3-1. Wade Miley went 7 2/3. Putz got out of trouble in the 8th. Brad Ziegler came in to save it. And the D-backs 3-1 the winners. So unless the Dodgers win, their lead would be cut to a half a game. And then tomorrow night, Clayton Kershaw and Homer Bailey. Almost got it. 3-1. Waiting on deck, right-hand hitting third baseman Todd Frazier. Frazier's 1 for 3 tonight. So 2 out, and the runners will be going. Votto from second, Phillips from first. 2 out, 4-1 Reds. And again, a reminder, Crawford, Puig, and Gonzalez in the bottom of the 8th. Phillips takes a different position running from first. Foul ball. When Phillips takes his lead, he is not looking at the catcher and the hitter. He has his back to them. I don't think I've seen a runner do that. See if he does it now. He definitely had his back completely opposite to the hitter. Billy Hatcher telling him, go ahead, take your lead. See if he turns his back. Come on, Brandon, I'm just talking about it. Give me a break. Wouldn't you? Nope, he didn't do it. Meanwhile, Bruce strikes out. No runs, 2 hits, 2 left, and at the end of 7 1/2, 4-1 Cincinnati. On his back, now sitting, and back flips the ball perfectly to Matt Latos covering. Earlier, Joey leaped high in the air to snare a line drive off the bat of Yasiel Puig. So he does a lot over there at first base, but then again, you can understand it coming from an all-star, Joey Votto. Meanwhile, we go to the bottom of the 8th inning, and the Reds holding on to a 4-1 lead. They scored a run in the first, a run in the second, and 2 in the 6th. Chris Heisey, who batted for Paul and was called out on strikes, stays in the game in left field. The Dodgers now trying to muster something against Matt Latos, who's been terrific. In fact, if Chu does not try to throw behind Puig in the 4th inning, Dodgers probably would not have scored at all, and they have just 1 run. Chu also became confused on the base paths, so it's been not a particularly good night for the boy from Busan. It'll be interesting when the Reds face the Dodgers and Hyunjin Ryu, because Busan is the same area where Ryu is from. They probably know each other. There's Hyunjin. Ah, yes, the old Korean delicacy, sunflower seeds. He's become Americanized for sure. Yep. Chew them, spit them out. 2-1 the count. 2-2. And Matt throwing 93. Not quite the 97 he did in the first inning or two, but still got enough left. 97 pitches. 2-2. And a slicing fly ball into left center, and Mr. Chu can't make the play. Into second base goes Crawford as Heisey got it back in. So a double into the gap in left center. 1 for 4 for Carl Crawford. Came close, but couldn't quite do it. How close? This close. So Yasiel Puig coming up. Puig lined out a leaping catch by Votto, took a double away from him in the first inning. Singled in the 4th and singled in the 7th. It was the 4th inning when he singled to center. Took a big turn as he is wont to do at first base. Chu tried to throw back of him, instead threw it away. Puig went all the way to third and scored on a ground ball, and that's really been the Dodger attack. Right. Puig is not going to argue. That was one thing Mike Brito stressed. Do not argue. But I'm sure in his heart he thought that was ball 1. And a little roller. If nothing else, that gets the runner to third. So Crawford at third, 1 out. Adrian Gonzalez coming up.
Adrian Gonzalez.
Gonzalez singled to center in the first inning. That was an 8-pitch at bat. Grounded out and hit into a double play since. For Matt Latos, who throws so hard with a runner at third, you wonder about wild pitches, and are you ready for this? He has 8 wild pitches. Slice down the line, foul. Big crowd tonight, 53,275. 53,275, the 12th sellout of the year. Oh and 1. One ball and 1 strike. Latos high, his pitch count, 111. He's made 102. 2 years ago, he pitched a game, he made 123 pitches. That'll get the run in, but they also give up a precious out. So it's 4-2 in favor of Cincinnati. And Gonzalez, with a couple of ground balls, is credited with driving in the 2. Hanley Ramirez hit into a force play, singled. A great effort by Brandon Phillips to smother the ball on the grass behind second base, but he couldn't throw it. And then last time up, Hanley struck out. 4 runs, 8 hits for Cincinnati, 2 runs, 7 hits for the Dodgers. Andre Ethier on deck. Fastball strike. Latos walked Hairston back in the 7th inning. He only walked. 0-2. Matt has struck out 4. He's allowed 7 hits and 2 runs. Tomorrow night, Clayton Kershaw and Homer Bailey. pulled by the diving Frazier into left field. So now the Dodgers come this close. They have the potential tying run coming to the plate. And we will see about what Dusty Baker does. With Manny Parra among others, and Parra has done such a remarkable job in the bullpen, you would think he's coming to Parra. We'll see. So that'll do it for Manolatos. He gave it his best shot, pitched a wonderful game, and finally comes out with 2 out in the 8th inning, leading 4-2, and we'll be back. Yearly prices. You can watch every out-of-market game live on over 350 supported mobile and connected devices in HD quality with MLB.TV Premium. Visit MLB.TV today. Baseball everywhere. Manolatos made 106 pitches. He had 14 ground balls. He had 10 no-ball, 2-strike counts. And he shut the Dodgers down. They were 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Now it's up to Manny Parra. How good has he been? He's inherited 14 runners this year. 1 have scored. And he has now got 1. Ramirez at first, working on Andre Ethier. In for a strike. Manny is from Sacramento. Lives in Citrus Heights, went to American River Junior College, originally signed by the Brewers, committed to UCLA, but the Brewers signed him. He is 6'3", 205-pounder. He will be 31 years old the end of October. Andre Ethier grounded out, lined out, flied out. 1-1. 1-2. He not only throws a fastball, he has a sinking two-seamer. That was that last pitch. He throws a cutter. He has a curveball. For good measure, he has a splitter, and he has a changeup. So he deals a big deck of cards out there. Manny Parra. 1-2. Check swing. 2-2. No swing. So without Sean Marshall, without Jonathan Broxton, Manny Parra coming to the rescue. Latos hollering at the plate umpire, Scott Berry. Naturally, he wants every pitch a strike now. Fouled away. So Andre Ethier hitting .273, 7 home runs, 36 runs batted in, up against a very tough left-hander, Manny Parham. 2-2 with 2 out. Ramirez at first. And that's going to be backhanded by his tourist to end the inning. So Ethier has had 4 at-bats. He's hit 2 balls right on the button. One a line out to right that could have been a run. And now this one, and it's 4-2 Reds. Tomorrow night, that's going to be quite a matchup. It will be David Bailey Jr. against Clayton Kershaw. Bailey, known better by the name Homer, is 5-9. Kershaw is 9-6. One note about Bailey, he's really struggled on the road. Of the 9 losses, 7 of them have been on the road. That would be the highest number of road losses by any pitcher in the National League. So he'll have a lot to work for tomorrow going up against Clayton in Game 2. Of course, the Dodgers, should they lose tonight, will be battling to stay in first place tomorrow night since Arizona already defeated the Cubs. So Bailey and Kershaw tomorrow. Carlos Marmol, who joined the Dodgers and had a very rough outing. He made his debut in Toronto, allowed 3 runs and 4 hits in an inning and 2/3. Marmol, who spent his career with the Cubs, came up in 2006, having been signed in '99 by the Cubs. A large family, 7 brothers and 2 sisters. So Carlos trying to pitch better tonight, and we'll see if he can do just that. That'll be a strike to Todd Frazier, the third baseman, who doubled and scored a run and grounded out twice. Todd 1 for 3. 1-1. So Frazier facing Carlos Marmol, who's from the Dominican Republic. Your first look at him in a home uniform. And a broken bat, little dunker into left field for a base hit. So Frazier breaks the bat, singles to left, and the batter will be Devin Mesoraco. His number 1 against Marmol. Marmol, 6'2", 215, facing Mesoraco. Carlos will be 31 in October. He had as many as 38 saves in his salad days with the Cubs. That would be 2010. The next year he had 34. One thing for Marmol, when he was 17 years old, he was a catcher. And believe it or not, as a catcher, had a tryout with the Reds. They passed. Then he worked out for the Cubs, and they liked his arm, and they saw him as a pitcher. Foul back, 0-1. Marmol, like old Cesar Izturis, when he was growing up, he cut empty milk cartons, used them as gloves. It wasn't until he was 14 years old that he got his first glove. Mel Rosario, who was a catcher who played briefly for Baltimore, brought him a glove. He never forgot that. So when he signed his first big league contract, he gave that first glove to another prospect. He's a cowboy. He gets up early in the morning, take care of 300 cows and 8 horses. Grew up on a ranch. His ranch is called Hacienda Marmol. Of course. 0-1. Mesoraco 1 for 3. Foul ball, 0-2. Devin Mesoraco grounded to short, single to center, fly to left. When the Dodgers come up, bottom of the 9th inning, A.J. Ellis, Skip Schumacher, and Jerry Hairston, and then the pitcher's spot. 0-2. Slider knocked down off the glove. The recovery for 1. A bounce to first, and Adrian unable to handle it. I think maybe Ramirez and Schumacher were a little surprised. I think the throw was intended for Hanley Ramirez, and Hanley's going to go in and talk to him. Watch, you'll see both cover on that line drive. There's Schumacher, there's Hanley. Schumacher has the tougher play because the runner was right there. Hanley might have had a better shot of getting the double play, but he never had the chance. So Schumacher is turned around, and it's just a force play, and the batter is Izturis. A shot that's off Marmol. His only play is to first. So the line drives, 2 down. Jack Hanahan will be coming up. Hanahan will be batting for Parra. And the Dodgers are going to make a change. And they want to check Marmol to make sure he's okay. No one throwing in the pen. You can see Hanley Ramirez saying to Marmol, now relax, take it easy. But it's interesting, you're trying to encourage a veteran pitcher to relax and take it easy. I mean, he's been pitching in the big leagues for 8 years, and yet he's making his debut here. I'm sure he's a little edgy, and Hanley Ramirez trying to tell him slow it down. So here's Hanahan. He's from St. Paul, Minnesota. 2 years ago, Hanahan did something that I think they're still talking about it. And ball 1. He had kind of a cult following when he was with the Indians. He became a real fan favorite. He appeared at an MLB Fan Cave music video in which he wore a kilt and an Indian jersey, and he was joined by Celtic dancers in New York Central Park, like river dance. And the short video clip featured him doing an Irish jig, so they gave him a nickname, Super Manahan. All right, Jack. And he's up there now with a 3-0 count. Jack Hanahan from St. Paul, originally out of the University of Minnesota. Marmol trying to get him and get out of the inning. And ball 4. So Marmol, with 2 out, has runners at first and second. Mattingly watching him.
Center fielder, number 17.
And here comes Mr. Chu. Aroldis Chapman. He's the fireballer, the left-hander down in the Cincinnati bullpen. He'll be pitching the bottom of the 9th. Marmol behind 1 ball and no strikes now to Chu. Chu is 1 for 4, but he's been embarrassed twice tonight. Once when he tried to throw behind Puig and threw it away. And the other time when he was running the bases and he was completely confused. Chuck Krim now is going to go out and try to calm Marmol down. Hanley Ramirez tried to settle him down. AJ's out there to talk to him as well. So there was a base hit by Frazier, 2 comebackers, and then the walk to Hanahan. Carlos Marmol struggling. Shin-Soo Choo 1 for 4. Very, very tough against right-hand pitching. And certainly up there with a purpose. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say he lost face when he was confused at second base or when he made the throwing error behind Puig. But he was embarrassed. Professional pride. So he's up there now with a purpose. 2-0. Right. 2-1. Two and 1. Big bouncer up the middle, finding eyes. It's off the glove of Schumacher, but a run will score, and it is 5-2 in favor of Cincinnati. So Chu does what he wanted so badly to do, not only get a base hit, but a run batted in. And boy, did that thing have eyes, which is an old expression. It found its way up the middle, and when it got between Ramirez and Schumacher, it just went off Schu's glove. Look at Marmol losing his glove. And the ball ticked into shallow center by Schumacher. Ground ball just missed there and just missed here. And away you go. So Marmol gives up the base hit and a run. 5-2 Cincinnati. Chris Heisey, who appeared as a pinch hitter and struck out, stayed in the game. Up there now, 2 on, 2 out, and ball 2. Two balls and no strikes. And he's behind now, 3-0. Well, the Dodgers taking a look, and it doesn't look like a happy look at what Marmol has brought to the game. Three and 0. And if things aren't bad enough, if he loses Heisey, he has Votto to contend with. Down in the Dodger bullpen, Chris Withrow begins to throw. That's a strike. 3-1. Withrow throws hard. Remember, the Dodgers have young Jose Dominguez on the DL. Kid who throws so hard and his arm is sore. Three balls and one strike. And that's lifted foul. A.J. trying to get under it, can't do it. Sometimes you'll see a catcher tried to slide, but I think among other things that rubberized on deck circle was over there, and he had to take his eye off for a split second and then couldn't quite get there. All right, 3-2. Runners go, and he gets a strikeout on Heisey. So Marmol, a struggling top of the ninth, gives up a run, and the Reds lead 5-2. Ethier lined out with a runner at second base in the fourth inning to right field. And then in the eighth inning with a man aboard, hit a line drive at the shortstop, Cesar Asturias. So for the Dodgers, the most frustrated hitter certainly has to be Andre Ethier. Dodgers were unable to do anything against Matt Latos at one time. They were 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. And actually it looks better. Gonzalez has 2 RBIs, but they came on just infield outs. Now you look at Aroldis Chapman. One of the things they talk about for Aroldis Chapman, he could very well become the first pitcher to strike out at least half the men he faces. Well, I'm not sure of how many men he has faced this year, but he has struck out 68 in 40 innings. He is 6'4", a 200-pounder. He was born in Cuba and lives in Andorra between Spain and France. Had the nickname the Cuban Missile because he can really fire. When he was a young kid, he was a boxer trained by his father and then started playing baseball at 11. And A.J. Ellis will be the first up. Ball one. Mark Ellis, who hit a home run last night in Toronto with a man aboard to help win the game, is on deck. But it's 5-2 Cincinnati in the ninth. In checking the batters faced, just to complete that thought, he has faced 168, so he'd have to strike out 84. Instead, he has struck out 68. But yet, you get an idea when you throw that hard, that's what they're talking about. And he just hit 98 on the gun. 6'4", 200. He left the Cuban national team in the Netherlands and defected so he could pitch in the United States. And then he went to Barcelona, Spain. And you know, one of the first purchases after arriving, he bought a Barcelona soccer team jersey, had his name put on it, and had number 52 put on the back of it. 2-2. Fouled away. Of course, you talk about he had 52 put on the back of it. He wears 54. 3 years ago, he signed a 5-year deal with Cincinnati. He one time was clocked at 105 as he striked out A.J. Ellis. That was 102, which brings up the perfect point. He drives a Lamborghini, and on the license plate of the Lamborghini it says 102 mph, which is an understatement because they said he made a pitch against Tony Gwynn. It was 105, and because he made that pitch at 105, he has a tattoo on his left wrist of a baseball with a trail of flames and the inscription 105.1 mph. I mean, I'm not making it up. They tell me these things. Aroldis Chapman. That was 101. 5 runs, 10 hits, 1 error for the Reds. That's popped in the air, foul. And Baracco coming back, no play. 1-2. A reminder, Dodgers Live, that'll be coming up right after the game. Mattingly seeing the Dodgers brought back to earth after that 6-game winning streak on the road, after having won 10 straight on the road, coming home with a 1.5-game lead. 1-2. Fastball flared to right field. It's going to land in front of Bruce. So Mark Ellis comes off the bench and has a flare single to right. And the batter will be Jerry Hairston. You know, a real amazing thing about Aroldis happened. In 175 career innings, Chapman has allowed 95 hits and struck out, are you ready, 280 batters. If he gets 2 strikes on you, you're done. If he gets 2 strikes on a hitter this year, they are 9 for 95. That's a batting average of .095. 68 strikeouts and 95 at-bats. Aroldis Chapman. Runner goes. They're not paying any attention to Mark. No stolen base. Defensive indifference. 2-0. Hairston. Juan Uribe is on deck. 2-0. Fastball strike at 100. That's nice to be Uribe, sitting in the dugout, minding your own business. Go get a bat. Go up against a guy throwing 100 and 101. The Cuban missile. Aroldis Chapman. 98. 2-2. .6'4", 200, and plain nasty. Araldis says he has 60 pair of shoes. One reason, where he grew up in Cuba, basic jeans, tennis shoes, and T-shirts were the order of the day. And once he got out of there, got a little money and the freedom to dress any way he wants, 60 pair of shoes. Three and two. With his 68 strikeouts, he has walked 19. Wow. That was 100. So he struck out Ellis and Hairston. Ellis at 101, Hairston at 100. That would have been ball 4 and would have made things very interesting. But down goes Hairston. The oldest joke would be to have Hairston turn to the plate umpire and say, that sounded low. And the guy's thrown 100. And Scott Barry doing his best. And here's Uribe hitting for Howell. 2 out, 9th inning, 5-2 Cincinnati. I'll throw it as hard as I can. You swing as hard as you can, and we'll see how it comes out. That was 100. Whoa. That was 102. You just wonder how in the world anyone can stand at home plate. By the time Araldis releases the ball, he's probably 56 feet away from home plate. Wow. He has 70 strikeouts and he has Uribe right on the edge. This is quite a team, this Cincinnati ball club. They're on the edge of winning their 59th. Dodgers have won 53. And they're going to be here through Sunday. And a wild pitch, sending Ellis to third. So Deuce is wild, and so is Chapman. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Two and 2 with 2 out. And ball 3. On deck, Carl Crawford. Crawford has never faced him. Uribe has never faced him. 3 and 2. And ball 4. So Uribe draws the walk, and the Dodgers now have Crawford representing the possible tying run. For Araldis Chapman, came in with an earned run average of 2.6. He has allowed 4 home runs, if you're thinking about that. Is Torres to the mound to talk to Chapman. Crawford tonight struck out, fly to center, line back at Latos, and doubled and scored a run, hitting .282. Uribe at first, Ellis at third. Uribe going again, defensive indifference. Dodgers now second and third with 2 out. That first pitch to Crawford was a hello 101. Fastball away. The one thing you never talk about, one thing you never hear about in the majors for sure, and that's the word fear. Nobody wants to talk about being afraid. 1-1. But again, that strong sense of self-preservation has to make you think when a guy out there is throwing 101, 102. Hanley and the boys are down by 3. 5-2 in the ninth. One and 2. And that's going to be hit on a line right at Heisey. So the Dodgers go out with a line drive to the left fielder. Chapman survives the inning. And the Dodgers are now a half a game in front of Arizona. 5 runs, 10 hits, and an error for the Reds. 2 runs, 9 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. Chapman had to work. He made 26 pitches in the 9th inning. Tomorrow night, remember, it'll be Clayton Kershaw and no-hit Homer Bailey, and fireworks as well. Stay tuned for Dodgers Live coming up next. Good night, everybody.